To start off our discussion, businesses today are very, I would say pressurized. What is the prevailing state of ESG practices among local corporates today?
To be honest, I'm pleased to report that there's a varying degree of sophistication in ESG that has come through. So we're still seeing that. But the piece that I was talking about, integrating sustainability into the way you do business, it is slightly broadening. There is, a lot more that we're seeing even as Sri Lankan companies. We are in an international situation, the global, right? So of that, every single person in the next 10 years has to put their best foot forward for ESG. If we unwrap the word of ESG and we go into the core of what we're trying to do of sustainability, what is it that we are trying to actually do with ESG, right? We are trying to say, look, as a business, in very simple terms, can we thrive as a business and not steal from the future resources? Every single major environmental activity, social activity that we have done has always come to save us. It's never been something that has just been a cost. It's added value to the way in which we operate and saved us at times when, it's been the right decision for us, even from a business perspective.
Businesses have much more to worry about than just maximizing profits today. We spoke about ESG with the director of the MA's Foundation for Change, Sharika Senanayake. Stay tuned.
Some bonds give more returns. Get more security and more interest on your fixed deposits from Sri Lanka's largest finance company, LMDtv Finance.
Hello and welcome to LMDtv. The topic of conversation today is ESG. And with us, we have Sharika Senanayake, the director of the MA's Foundation for Change. Sharika, it's lovely to have you on our show.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited about speaking with you today.
To start off our discussion, businesses today are very, I would say pressurized to look at many more things than just maximizing profits and revenue. So against this backdrop, what is the prevailing state of ESG practices among local corporates today?
Sure. So, I think today I'm kind of in a good position to judge that because I'm actually a judge at the National Chamber of Commerce Awards. So I've been seeing a lot more than I have before. And to be honest, I'm pleased to report that there's a varying degree of sophistication in ESG that has come through. And the first thing I'd say is that most corporates have an awareness that it is required, which is the baseline. It's at the very, very, very least amount of interaction they have with ESG. But at the top, what we're seeing is we have corporates who have understood how ESG, or specifically their goals around sustainability, integrate with the way that they do business. But this is less than some of the larger companies. The smaller companies have understood the pillars. They've actually sort of have them under their HR or other areas where they have them as activities, specific activities, but not linked to their business. And then you get the rest of the people who think CSR and ESG are sort of interlinked. So we're still seeing that, but the piece that I was talking about, integrating sustainability into the way you do business, it is slightly broadening. There is, a lot more that we're seeing even as Sri Lankan companies.
So, there's awareness and there's action as well. Do you think it's enough? Right now where we should be, or is there a lot more to improve?
The thing is, unfortunately, that enough is only when we are forward and we're looking back, right? Do I personally intuitively think there is enough from what I'm seeing? I think everybody's waiting for somebody else to do something big so that they can ride the wave, in what I'm saying. We are in an international situation, the global, right? So of that every single person in the next 10 years has to put their best foot forward for ESG. And unfortunately, us in the Southern Hemisphere are the ones who are going to be seeing this significant aggressive climate change, this rain that we see, this drought that we see. It's only going to get worse year on year. So are we doing enough? I think enough is something, that definitely we need to do a lot more because it's exponential. I mean, it's been years and years of what we've done that has got us to this state. And if we want to at least revert back to, or at least sustain these standards, everybody's got to move out of fossil fuels, back into looking at renewable energy. They've got to think about our pollution from a waste perspective. We've got to have everybody looking at circularity. Given the kind of work I do with the foundation and seeing the waste, etc., that's being emitted into the streams and water, the answer is no, we're definitely not doing enough as corporates or as citizens at this point. That's my personal view.
Like you said, everybody should be involved. So you talked of corporates, you talked of the citizens. If I ask you about the other party, the government, how should the government intervene to kind of facilitate more ESG practices being instilled in the country?
So that's an interesting one because I think their role is a regulatory role. And I think it's generally, unfortunately, an unpopular role that they have to come in with. And I mean, we're seeing a lot of hype about degazetting of land, etc. So I think what the government's role is protection of what has been already gazetted in terms of our wildlife, of our protected areas, and enforce that as much as they can. Because I think when it comes to our biodiversity, when it comes to our, even the mangroves, etc., Sri Lanka is yet not in a situation of dire straits. So more than even growing more, which we need to do, at least protecting what we have is important. So I think it's a very regulatory role that the government needs to take. And also, I really believe that the government should think of policies that inspire rather than always going with the stick. Why not inspire by giving people who are on renewable energy tax incentives? Why don't we use sort of the sustainability carrot as being that role to inspire people and help them, be rewarded for their success, for their sustainability practices?
And talking about the carrots, I'm going to talk about the cost as well. I mean, there is a perception that, instilling ESG into the company is a costly affair, especially since, cost is a big factor for across Sri Lanka right now. So, but is this true? And what are the cost implications of ESG frameworks?
Well, I mean, that's an interesting way, right? I mean, I look at it as a perspective. If we unwrap the word of ESG and we go into the core of what we're trying to do of sustainability, what is it that we are trying to actually do with ESG, right? We are trying to say, look, as a business, in very simple terms, can we thrive as a business and not steal from the future resources? Very simply, right? So the point is, the cost of what we're asking you to do in ESG is simply to make yourselves relevant in the future, right? So should your business be significantly causing any kind of environment damage, you will pay your business won't be long-term anyway, right? You won't be able to thrive. And if you're a business that relies on natural resources, you need to do what you can to either decouple yourself from those natural resources so that you will survive when the regulation that I'm talking about that the government will impose. For example, if you're just continuously extracting water from one of our river sources, right? And, you find that at a certain point, there are going to be policies and regulations that will not allow you to do that because the environment won't be able to sustain it. So the reason whether you can afford it or not is to rethink about your business and see what I can do to self-sustain that. Is there ways in which I can continuously use that water within rather than continuing to extract and exhaust natural resources? At my experience at MAS, every single major environmental activity, social activity that we have done has always come to save us. It's never been something that has just been a cost. It's added value to the way in which we operate and saved us at times when, it's been the right decision for us, even from a business perspective.
And Sharika, talking about like you said, it's a saving for the future. Is this the same for all companies, regardless of size, or is it still difficult for smaller companies, SMEs, to embrace ESG?
So I think of ESG as, when let's just take a step back on the elements also of ESG or environment. If you take it, nobody can do everything. Nobody can tick all the SDG boxes. No one can link. We have to find what is material to your business. How one does that is you have to think about, if I'm a small business, how can I be clever enough to think about ESG as an advantage for me in either reducing my cost or increasing my market, right? That is the world of it. So how do I reduce my cost? For example, if you went to the Kade many 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, right? Now you get a bag, a plastic bag. You either say that, but before the Kade gives you the newspaper that is wrapped up in, that, or if you buy some kadale, it comes in a potania that's made out of a leaf. Now that didn't cost much to those people, right? And what happened was people started adding 2 rupees, 5 rupees, and you're creating this cost. You created a market of use and dispose, and it added a layer of cost to even the smallest vendor of any kind. So my thing is, think back. How did we do this? How did we manage without, surely people took lunch to work without one of those lunch leaves. The thought of a lunch leaf not being there is shocking to us. So my thing is, that's a layer of cost that small vendors have had to do it if you just take packaging into consideration, right? So those are just little things that I would like. I think, as you say, smaller businesses need to think smarter about how they can reduce their costs. Like, is this adding value for the customer? Is my bag adding value to the customer? That extra 2 rupees of cost I have to incur, and think of it in that way. That's what you call integrating sustainability into your business ideas. So try and get back to, whether it is a shop, or I think our audience here is not necessarily, there might be smaller businesses who are clothing stores, right? Can you not use your waste fabric to either create bags? Can you not create accessories? Like a zero waste environment can create a whole new revenue opportunity for you. Scrunchies, hair bands, jewelry. Just start, thinking out of the box there. Thinking about, even asking the question, do you really need a bag? Like, do we have to package every single shirt that we buy in a plastic bag, which you take home and you throw immediately? Right. So would you just, even the question of, would you like this package? Sometimes customers say yes. Sometimes, you could just wrap it up in a piece of that sarungal paper and give it to them. So those are ways that I think small businesses can really support on certain SDGs and certain environmental ideas, and of course, social ideas as well. I've been talking strongly about environment, but small businesses have a really high chance of looking at tapping into, for example, persons with disabilities, right? Giving them job opportunities. I've seen lots of smaller businesses being able to work, for example, with people who have either sight or hearing disabilities, in helping them to reskill into work that actually is better than anybody else, really enhancing on their strengths. And I feel it's really important to be inclusive, especially in Sri Lanka, where we're having a brain drain, to be inclusive of even all kinds, whether at 55, why are people retired? We need to bring that the older population who's capable of doing a lot more, persons with disability, into our workforce. And I think even with small industries, you find that really adds value.
Thank you. For bringing in the social aspect of ESG, what do you think is preventing companies from, because like you said, it's simple stuff, it's little actions to, have those policies and practices. But if companies are not practicing the societal pillar of ESG, why do you think it is so? What are the challenges?
Well, I think it's kind of fear, lack of creativity, lack of the unknown. It's just doing what you're doing every day and not stopping to think like, look, should I change? Will I add any value? I mean, what is the value of when we have, I mean, social can mean so many things, right? For example, unfortunately, it's even to the part of under social sustainability, where we even have women as a part of having equal opportunity in workplaces. I mean, when over and over again, the research shows that it adds value even at a board level. I mean, you've just got to think about it. Like most people will say, if you reflect on women, they'll say, you know, that they're less likely to leave you for a higher salary. They're more grateful. They work longer. I mean, the thing is, I feel that if you don't embrace that, you will lose out. And your question was, why are people slow to do this? Because I think they're just not sure how to. Like everybody knows there's an issue, everybody would like to. Sometimes it's done in sort of an awkward way that they just, you know, they'll see it just has to be done genuinely. And I think it needs to be done with a little bit of creativity. How do we bring, you know, these aspects of environmental, social, and governance into our way that we integrate sustainability? And it does require some thinking of, you know, new, you know, what is the world like? Who's contributing? The kind of culture I'd like to create. And I think those who don't move will get left behind and will not actually reap the best benefit of their full potential as a business.
It's time to take a very short break, but we'll soon be back to talk more about ESG.
What makes a truly awesome insurance company? Is it the skills to manage big numbers and big responsibilities? Well, that's definitely part of it. But there's more. It's the people. They're awesome. Super passionate about looking out for others and putting in their time for people's finances. It's not just the people. It's how we do things that's awesome. From being trendsetters of the industry to being connectors or inventors. It's about well-being and how we achieve it. Our teams hustle non-stop to meet the needs of the people. That's why we're on the rise. But it's not just about how we do things either. It's about how we improve things. Helping our clients thrive in a world that's full of awesome goals to achieve. Making the maximum out of the minimum. But wait, there's more to it. There's one last thing that truly makes an insurance company awesome. It's that we care about our people and our customers. All of this combined, it's been a pretty awesome year. And we're excited for tomorrow.
Display your brand message on digital screens at prime locations. The largest digital advertising network in Sri Lanka. Emerging Media.
Welcome back to the show. We're in conversation with the director of the MA's Foundation for Change, Sharika Senanayake. Talking of being genuine and, you know, moving into the governance pillar of ESG, are local companies, you know, ethical and are they upholding ethical values and conduct, especially things like being anti-bribery and anti-corruption? What do you observe?
Well, that's a tough question. I feel that with the type of reporting that the world is moving towards, the type of auditing that's happening to export-related companies, that I feel that there's more awareness of that coming in. I would say that governance is something that is not, I mean, even in terms of management structures, in terms of how boards are selected, there is less awareness in Sri Lanka on that governance piece. We've been hitting hard on the environment and the social piece, the governance piece. For smaller and medium-sized businesses has not been a priority other than just the basics, you know, tick boxes that they have to do. So I would say there's a lot more room for that area in Sri Lanka, a lot more education in that area. I think we don't have many forums that are pushing for the G part of the ESG that are giving people enough ideas how to incorporate it. But to be honest, I don't have that kind of visibility unless you're a listed company where the information is a little bit more available.
It's anyway murky territory, so
Absolutely.
lots more to do
Maybe
there.
for improvement, if you ask me. But I think for everyone, it's an evolving space.
Sharika, moving into, talk about the future. I mean, ESG has become a buzzword for better or worse. So looking at what we can expect in the next decade, what do you think are the most significant trends that will come into the market, affecting local companies, of course?
Well, I mean, I think when it comes to us thinking about a future, we have to think of a future that operates purely on renewable energy. We cannot be using, I mean, maybe we are, but we should significantly be moving towards renewable energy and renewable energy operations. I think people will frown upon fossil operated things. And I feel like everybody needs to make that shift, whether it happens at a government level or an individual level. So whether it is our cars, the way we operate, we have to think of less emissions. We are literally suffering with the emissions. I mean, even as you walk on these streets, I think you remember in the COVID months, just after we came out, we could breathe. And now when you try to even walk on the roads, again, these emissions have got so bad. So it would be wonderful if we could live in a world in 10 years where we were not poisoning ourselves every few seconds. And I feel like the cars and all the technology will move towards where we are not accepting this. So renewable energy would be a big piece of what we're doing. Because of the lack of raw material, I feel the world will have to start thinking of circularity as the way to go. Like that, we should not think of any raw material that will be disposed and go back into landfill. It should be a part of our system, always being recycled. I feel people need to be clever about packaging, clever about, and people will demand transparency, like who did what, when, where, right? Everybody will want to know who made my food, how was it made, what went, how was it organic, and that kind of labeling. So I feel like that would be a strong piece. I really hope that in the future of 10 years, that we would have done what we can this year where biodiversity would thrive, and that we would be understanding and giving the correct position for biodiversity in the future. So even in terms of trend, biodiversity is the least looked at. When you look at renewable energy, people will look at things like, energy and water and waste as the three key areas. But biodiversity is significantly important for humanity to thrive and all being, right? So we need that mix for our survival, for our medical research, for every aspect of, our being. The other sort of silent killer that I feel the trend would be, and the lack of transparency, has allowed people to use a lot of chemical toxicity in the way that we are adding into whether it is our products, our food, the way we do that. And I'm hoping that within the next 10 years, I may be ambitious, but that more regulation will come in so that we are not worried about being poisoned by, whether it's your vegetable or your perfume, you're wondering where that toxicity is coming from, right? And I would like to see regulation getting strong that is absolutely, that I am not walking into a supermarket and eating food and only having where the majority of the food is organic. And if anyone wants a little bit of pesticide food, that is in a bag on the side and you have to pay more for that. That would be what I would hope, that we flip what we are looking at today. And at least the best practices brought in. I understand that with climate change, agriculture will be an issue, but can we not use more technology like hydroponics and various other ways and make sure we do best practices on those pesticides? So one of the fears I have currently and hope will improve is really on the chemical toxicity side, both coming in product, in processes, in emissions.
It's a challenging picture, but a beautiful picture. So I hope we get there.
I hope so too.
Sharika, we're almost at the end of the conversation, but before we wind up, any closing thoughts you'd like to share with our audience? perhaps on the, to the general public? We spoke about companies and we spoke about the government, but if you could share some thoughts with, you and I, people.
So I think for us, sustainability and the words ESG are really complicated words. And I have always been a person who has wanted things to be said simply. So again, going back into what is it that this whole environmentalist group is trying to do? It's trying to just say, look, today we had depleting resources that are taking away from the future. So look at businesses, look at the way you run your household, look at the way that you practice, and try and understand that we need a new way in which we can operate successfully without damaging the future. I mean, we're looking at our little kids of 5 years old and, we're thinking, what will their future be, right? And not 5, I'm actually worried anyone who's like 20 or 30. I mean, even that. So my word is there is a lot that can be done. There are a lot of ideas. For example, personally, I run the MA's Foundation for Change, and we are putting these barriers in canals and waters. We collect over 1.8 million kilos of waste per annum just from the waste that is generated by consumers throwing or not looking at not looking after the waste that they generated, which is going into the sea, which is going into the waterways, and then we're wondering why we're eating one credit card of plastic. I would say that there is a huge collective effort that we all need to do. And I would really like to say that there are partners, and whether it is people like us, who are happy to offer advice and ideas. I mean, they're just creative ideas, their experience. Please, reach out to us through the MA's Foundation if you'd like to either work or want ideas to support. We're always helping. But everybody can do something. And as you look back from 2030 or 2035 or whatever, you've got to say, oh, I've come a long way. What did I do to do my best effort in this? Mm-hmm. And I think that goes in every way. I mean, I think that whether it is the media, whether it is the consumer, whether it is the corporate and the government, we have to collectively work to ensure a safe future for everyone. And I am, wishing everyone all the best, and hopefully Sri Lanka will lead this way in being a country that is really, leading the way on sustainability.
We've been in conversation with Sharika Senanayake, the director of the MA's Foundation for Change. Sharika, it was lovely talking to you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time.
And to all our viewers, thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, take care.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for watching and stay safe.